Dayton, Ohio.
Baptiste coming off arguably the best game of his career, a 5-year career starting at St. Joe's in their championship game win over William & Mary.
Payne trying to get right to work. 75% free throw shooter. Doug, this, on the other hand, would be a monumental upset. How does Delaware even have a chance in this game?
Well, first, you can't do that. They're not deep. Baptiste gets called for a foul, although he had both his hands up, and I didn't see a foul. So they don't have much of a bench. They don't rely on it. But they have not just 3, 4 very good guards. I mean, Anderson can really shoot the basketball. And look at the size difference and, of course, the prestige difference, the historic difference. Delaware's never even beaten a Big Ten team. They're 0-29 lifetime against a Big Ten team, against Michigan State, who, though a 4 seed, many people's picked to win the national championship. So I think their guards have to be in attack. I think they need to climb into Keith Appling and see if he really is healthy. And I think they need to try and not allow Michigan State to get runouts and easy buckets.
Well, Monty Ross told us yesterday his message to his players here was very simple this week. Guys, it's a 1-game deal. Anything can happen. It's not a 7-game series. 1 game as Delaware tries to pull what would be a stunner. Fighting Blueheads, the Colonial Athletic Association regular season and tournament champs. Outside look at the shot. That is Javon Sadler, the senior and Delaware's all-time leading scorer. Sadler, the senior from Aberdeen, Maryland. Came up with that huge bucket in the last minute of the tournament championship game in the CAA against William & Mary. They were down 6 in that game with 1:20 left.
You look at the matchups, there are going to be times when you have forwards on Sadler, when you have a bigger player because Michigan State is switching all these handoffs. You want to try and take the bigger guy to the rack.
Here's Jarvis Street, very athletic point guard, turned back that time. And then Harris gives it back. Here comes Sadler. All CAA for his 2nd straight season. Averaged just under 20 points per game. Defended by Harris. Whistle blown on the drive. As we take another look at that Sadler bucket.
I mentioned mismatches, so now he's got Brendan Dawson on him. He kind of just sheds Dawson, steps back, and hits a jump shot. Remember, Dawson essentially plays the power forward. He's not used to guarding a true guard, a combo guard like Sadler is. Plus, Sadler just built like a truck, built like a linebacker. So when he sheds you, you get shed. He gives you a little bump, you go flying.
Sadler had a stretch of 7 straight games in January where he scored at least 20 points. Had a chance to catch up with him yesterday. Told us about some of his nicknames. Here is 3 on the corner 3.
If Jarvis Street hits jump shots, you're in trouble. That's the weakest part of his game. He's a very active driver, super quick, but only about a 25% three-point shooter. Michigan State dared him to shoot. He took the dare.
Harris with the answer. Yeah, 3 before that 3 was 9 for 45 from deep on the season. 1-point lead for Delaware. Another whistle on the perimeter.
Michigan State likes to get Gary Harris the basketball on what's called pin downs. You just send a big guy. He sets a very simple down screen for Gary Harris, who comes off always ready to shoot. Great balance for Harris.
Michigan State 26-8. Running through the Big Ten Conference Tournament in Indianapolis. 3 wins in 3 nights. Knocking off Michigan to avenge that late regular season loss. Harris. Rebound knocked out of bounds by the Spartans, and the Fighting Blue Hens will have it. And there's Tom Izzo. Always apprehensive no matter what the matchup, no matter what people in East Lansing were saying about this Delaware team.
Kyle Anderson's coming off looking to shoot every time he gets it.
Valentine inside to Costello, who just came in. 3 good looks at it, couldn't hit. And here comes 3. Usher. Usher, another senior. Transfer from Mississippi Valley State.
That's good ball right there.
Valentine, splash from deep. Valentine, a 36% three-point shooter.
Players talk about takes a while to get programmed. Costello, maybe start of the year, would have taken that jump shot. Instead, takes one dribble, and instead of quitting on the play, Valentine relocates, gets set, and gets a three because of it.
Baptiste working hard. Ooh. Well, Monty Ross told us that the senior Baptiste really doesn't realize how good he is. He certainly did in that CAA regular or conference tournament final. Had a career-high 24 points in the win over William and Mary to get him to the big dance. Excellent defensive play, broken up. Usher up top, and they missed the dunk with Anderson. Three on the rebound. Putback earns a trip to the line when we come back. All tied at 8. Early going.
Now she inspires him daily. The two talk and text every day, and you'll notice the blue band over Adrian's sock. That reads "One step closer, pray for Lacey," and what a very special young lady she must be.
It's an incredible story, Jamie. She suffers from a rare form of cancer called neuroblastoma. Befriended the little girl 2 years ago on a hospital visit. And Adrian Payne, a guy who's had to deal with a lot in his own life, of course, lost his mother at the age of 12. As a traumatic an experience as a 12-year-old kid could have. She died in his arms of an asthma attack. Raised by his grandmother, she passed away his sophomore year at Michigan State. And as big as he is on the floor, Doug, as intense as he is, he's like a big teddy bear off it. And as beloved a member of this program that they have had in recent memory.
And of course, he promised his late grandmother that he would graduate from college. One of the reasons he decided to come back to Michigan State. You talk to this coaching staff, and they'll say, "We worked really, really hard. He may not be the perfect kid or the perfect student, but from the time he was in high school, when his then teacher, now superintendent, helped him learn to read more proficiently so he could be in college, to now being in college, being set to graduate, he has been a part of the process of becoming not just a better basketball player, but a better student and a great representative of what Spartan basketball is supposed to be about."
And he says no regrets, even with the injuries that he had to endure. Would have been a first-round pick. And you mentioned the decision to come back. He really struggled with that. Said it was the first big decision that he had to make since his grandmother passed away. She'd always been there by his side. And Payne trying to go out with a bang here and finish out his senior season.
Well, now you see Michigan State kind of going small with Travis Trice in the backcourt at the same time. Got to contain Delaware off the dribble.
Sadler unable to hit. And here come the Spartans with Apley. Valentine.
Oh, that was quick.
Got a three earlier. Travis Trice, the junior and Ohio native, filling it up from deep. Sadler with a quick answer. Doug, you can't give him space.
No, he has kind of a funky release to his shot. It gets way out in front.
Over 2,200 career points, third among active D1 players. Only Doug McDermott in front of him. Travis Bader. Marvin King Davis whistled for his second. By the way, Gary Harris picked up his, we were told it was his second, then they changed it. So just one personal,
now,
and Harris still on the floor.
Here's how you know if Tom Izzo liked the shot that Denzel Valentine took. You see Denzel Valentine on the floor right now?
No.
There's your answer. Too quick in transition. They want to run, and they want to get good shots in transition, but not 22-foot threes off one pass.
Adrian Payne on the turnaround.
And Izzo called him over and just pointed to the spot and said, "Do we want that shot?" And then, of course, he went and sat on the bench.
Doesn't take him long to get his message across. Contact charged to 3, and the Spartans will have it back. Well, about 6.5 minutes into the game, Delaware hanging with him. Valentine pleading his case on the bench. Usually won't win that argument.
There's a remarkable relationship between the backside and the brain. You sit in your backside, and all of a sudden the brain triggers. Like maybe he didn't like that.
Well, Valentine, a guy that Izzo has really relied on this year, one of the few guys that's been injury-free, and has given them some very big minutes. Whistle blown. Looked like Trice was out of bounds in the corner, and Delaware gets it back.
And that play was for Payne to catch the ball at the block, and he came all the way out to three-point range. Now, if you follow Michigan State basketball, you'll know that in the half court, every time down they run a specific set, and the set kind of gets them into spacing and kind of allows them to play. But if you go to just the wrong spot on the floor, it screws up that spacing. Adrian Payne floating out to the wing is not what they're looking for.
Baptiste, little juke step to the middle. Everything but the finish. Well, one thing about Michigan State, fewest turnovers in the Tom Izzo era this year, just 11.4 per game. That was their third a moment ago. Payne couldn't bank it in.
But that's better. That's where they want him to catch the basketball, and Baptiste probably fouled him, but laid on him the whole time, so it didn't look like as much contact.
Here comes Sadler to the rack. They're so good with their interior defense. Possession arrow favors the Spartans. With 12 and change left before halftime. They'll get the most complete coverage of every team in your bracket and the tournament's best moments with the Team Stream app from Bleacher Report. Fuel your passion with Team Stream on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device today. We're in Spokane, Washington, game 2 of our quadruple header. Winner of this game advances to the round of 32, where Tommy Amaker and Harvard awaits on Saturday afternoon. Harvard a 4-point winner over Cincinnati. That is Gary Harris. Tweaked his left shoulder against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament final. Harris dealing with multiple shoulder injuries as a freshman. As tough as they come for Tom Izzo.
Still very young, only 19 years old. Of course, he had a bad ankle injury early this season.
Also has played through some back pain. Usher can't hit the three. Inside, Harris, monstrous finish. 11-3 run for the Spartans.
When Michigan State's really good is when they get quick buckets in transition off of long jump shots.
Baptiste showing his range.
And you look back at that 2000 national championship team from Team Cleves and all the other 6 Final Four teams. Generally very good defensively, pretty good in the half court. But one of the specialties is you got runners on each wing, and they secure the rebound and fire that ball ahead.
Whistle blown, offensive foul. Will give it back to the fighting Blue Hens when we come back.
And you better get back when the Spartans are coming to town. Gary Harris into your living room and into the bucket. Sparty up 5 early.
With all the injuries, Doug, take us through this first half. Gary Harris coming on.
Well, this is what makes him a complete player offensively, is Michigan State likes to run what's called simple pin down action. All right, so they're going to take Gavin Schilling, and he's just going to set a simple down screen for Gary Harris, who has to read the screen. Now look, 50% of his jump shots are threes, but the best part of his game is he doesn't have to shoot a three. He has a middle game. Put it on the deck, create in the middle of the lane. I'm holding a Big Ten scouting report right in my hand that says prefers to drive right when he bounces it, likes the floater going either way. Is that a pretty good scouting report?
On the money so far, as Delaware turns it over again. Michigan State gets it back. There's Monty Ross, the 43-year-old 8th-year head coach of Delaware. 25 wins out of the Colonial Athletic Association.
Uh-oh.
Harris got it. Harris, 6th leading scorer in the Big Ten. Over 17 per game.
And here's the other thing he does. He'll give up his body, he'll screen, because if you screen, Spiro, you'll get yourself open. So Gary Harris, he just hit a shot, right? So Tom Izzo says, all right, let's feed the hot hand. He sets a cross screen for Brendan Dawson. 2 Delaware Blue Hands run and help. Adrian Payne cleans up his man. And now Gary Harris has hit 2 in a row. Expect Sparty to find him again.
So 10:30 to play before halftime. Michigan State opening up an 8-point lead. Harris has scored their last 7. You see the run over the last 3 minutes and change. Here comes Davon Usher. Draws the foul and will shoot 2. Well, so much pressure on these 3 leading scorers for the Fighting Blue Hens.
And of course, Usher was only able to transfer and play right away out of Mississippi Valley State because of their APR score, which made them ineligible for NCAA tournament play.
Well, let Upwave help you unleash your inner beast. For tips and advice on how to keep your body at its best, check out upwave.com/basketball.
And then what's unique about it was that the staff had found out that he was available. He's from Baltimore. And so Devin Sadler walked into the office and said, "You're recruiting heads?" They said, "Who's heads?" It's like, I've known him since I was 10 years old, kind of lost track of him. Went to Polk Junior College down in Mississippi Valley State. He was called heads when he was 10 years old because he had a big head.
Played AAU ball together as Michigan State gets inside to Brandon Dawson. He sadly said he also heard about it on Twitter and immediately went into his coach's office and tried to do whatever he could to get him over. That's Jarvis Threatt, the junior from Richmond, Virginia. Cutting the deficit to 6. Harris. Payne just towering over Baptiste. Couldn't corral it. This is Sadler.
That's great lateral movement by Dawson, who has to guard big players and small players alike.
May have the broadest shoulders of any perimeter player in the tournament. He is a wide load of muscle to deal with on the outside. 3. We talked about Threatt's struggles from the outside earlier. Did have the early 3 as Michigan State gets the shot that they want.
Yeah, they find Dawson. But again, that's being in attack, moving the basketball, and Brandon Dawson struggles with his jump shot. That's okay. You don't have to have a jump shot to be effective. It's about effort and about use of his athleticism.
Payne went to the drop step, but the officials say traveling violation.
I just, there's supposed to be no hand checking on the perimeter. But this is one of the reasons it's so hard to score in the low post. You know this from covering the NBA. When Baptiste is able to lay his body on him the entire time, it's hard to make a post move. It's so physical in the low post, and yet so full of finesse out in the perimeter. Of course, so many teams, both in college and the pros, have gone to these spread offenses, if you will. High ball screen, everybody get out of the paint.
Of course, the rule change with the forearm check early in the season. The coaches all over the country have talked about the adjustment that they had to make early. Not being called quite as tightly since. A couple of missed opportunities by Kyle Anderson. So Delaware still down 6 with 8:20 left in the half. Payne. Oh, he's added that to his arsenal. 9 points for the senior center. 9-point lead for the Spartans.
And when the wings fire, it flattens the defense. And now you got a trail man. The trail 3, Major Payne, Adrian Payne. Sparty up 9. Up a deuce. It brings to mind something we saw from Cincinnati. Florida, not as much as Cincinnati, or maybe not as much as San Diego State, who we'll see in the later session tonight. But one of those teams that goes through these droughts where they don't score it particularly well, especially when Michael Frazier isn't hitting jump shots. There's just a paucity of shooters on their roster, and they don't have the Adrian Payne. They don't have the pick and pop 4-5 man to stretch out the defense, so it becomes very hard to drive in there.
We know Michigan State, Doug, back at full strength, has become very quickly again one of the sexy picks to win the entire thing. Are you with most, though, thinking that Florida's still the team to beat coming in?
No, I have Michigan State as the team to beat, and that's kind of what this weekend is about. It's a litmus test for, are they as good as they played in the Big Ten Championship?
How about the evolution in Adrian Payne's game? You go through the first 87 games of Payne's career. He attempted all the 4 threes and hit 1. Last 45 games, he's hit 52 of them. He's hit back-to-back Michigan State by a dozen first half in Spokane.
And all of a sudden there'd be flames coming out of the basketball. That appears to be the case as Denzel Valentine gets him started. Trice. Now all of a sudden you got Adrian Payne. Splash, splash, splash. You know, I think they were 13 out of 16 from three. 13 threes in the first half against Purdue and West Lafayette. They ended up with 17 threes. It was about the best shooting I've ever seen until what we've seen so far in the first 12 minutes.
I was more of a double dribble guy myself, going back even further. Michigan State, 7:26 to play first half. Here's Payne. Back-to-back threes before the timeout, and that time showing his strength.
And there's the balance of it. As he hits a couple threes, and now he rolls you down to the block. Batiste lowers his hands. Gets an and one. The use of the left hand. Adrian Payne, when he takes good shots, such a dynamic weapon.
14 points for Payne. He is doing work in this first half. Already at his season average of 15 points. Told you earlier, second team All Big Ten, 7th in the conference in scoring, 3rd in rebounding. Appears to be fully healthy after missing 7 games mid-season with that right foot sprain. Dawson clears. Here comes Appling. Dawson was overplayed by Usher, and Usher whistled for his first. Watch live games on your Amazon Kindle, Android device, iPhone, iPad, or computer with NCAA March Madness Live. Watch right now at ncaa.com/March Madness or download the app today. Spiro Ditas, Doug Gottlieb, Jamie Maggio from Spokane, Washington. Game 2 of our quadruple header. Under 7 minutes left before halftime. Delaware just trying to keep it close, but they're in some early trouble. It's Russell Bird, the junior, in for the first time.
Bird is a very good shooter, but he's got to be ready to shoot when he relocates in this offense.
They left Payne, 3rd three for the senior. 18 points for Payne. He's 5 of 7 from the field.
Flames coming out of the basketball?
Yes.
Yes.
Usher muffed it for a moment. Suddenly, Michigan State's lead now at 18. And Adrian Payne has scored their last 9. Baptiste. Appling trying to thread the needle to Dawson. And a rare turnover by the Spartans.
What would Marv Albert say? He's on fire.
It's not bad. Payne gets a well-deserved blow as he has matched all of Delaware's output with his 18 points.
What did Monte Ross say to us? He said there were 2 teams that I didn't want to play. He said, we're looking. He said, you know, we didn't want to be at 13. He said, I don't want to play. He said, you know what? It's the respect they have for Tom Izzo and how everybody saw this team play in the Big Ten Championship. The other team, obviously, was Louisville.
Ross said he met Izzo once at a USA basketball function. Says he was struck by just how normal a guy he was. A guy who was as decorated as any coach in the game today. Just a regular guy. Sat and talked for a couple of minutes.
Of course, Ross was an assistant at St. Joe's when they went undefeated in the regular season.
10 years under Phil Martelli. Member of that 2003-04 staff.
That was a good team, a great game in East Rutherford.
Usher with a big 3. So that'll end their drought. 15-point game. Here is Trice. Well, can the Fighting Blue Hens make a little bit of a spurt here before halftime? Usher off balance and a chance at a 3-point play.
Usher, an attack guard. Not a great shooter, he's kind of a slasher who can shoot. Just in attack mode, goes to his strong left hand, puts it off the glass and gets an and one. A good shooter, not a lights out shooter like Kyle Anderson is, but a good enough one to which you have to respect his jump shot. And it's all the other little ways in which he can score.
Usher out of South Baltimore hit a 42-point game against Charleston in early February. Delaware raced a 20-point deficit in that game to win. And they need something big from him today if they're going to have a shot in the second half. Here comes Appling, turning the corner. Trice, and that's a travel.
Here's a little thing for Keith Appling, who's not had to learn to be a true point guard. Is when he drives to the basket, and he kicks out to Trice, you can't give a shooter an overhead pass, because when you give a guy an overhead pass, it's like a downward trajectory. It's hard to shoot. He's not a natural point guard. He's a natural scorer, and this has been a learning process to learn to make others better.
Appling dealing with the wrist injury, missed 3 games in February. He actually hurt it originally in December. And so many tough kids on this Michigan State roster. He tried to battle through it. Got to the point where Izzo just said, look, we got to shut him down. He wasn't himself. And right now appears to be back at full strength. Tough shot inside by Sadler.
Devin Sadler's always at full strength.
How'd you like to deal with that guy physically for 40 minutes?
Well, he played football in high school a couple of years.
Looks like it.
I mean, he looks like a football player, and he just knows how to use his body when he creates contact going to the basket.
Doug, how about the Fighting Blue Hens? They were down 18 just a moment ago. 8 straight points, and Michigan State turns it over. Bird was out of bounds. Spartans average only 11 turnovers. They've given it away 10 times so far. 10-point game in Spokane. For teams, visit Lowe's.com/ScottSeed for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the 2014 NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Final Four in Northern Texas. Back with you in Spokane. 8 straight points for the Fighting Blue Hens. Inside, excellent find. Marvin King Davis, the sophomore, with the two-handed stuff. Delaware was down 18 points. Adrian Payne took a rest, and the Spartans went south. Izzo wasting no time. Payne back on the floor. Here's Dawson. It's a Delaware team in the big dance for only the 5th time ever, first time in 15 years. Anderson off target, offensive rebound 3, fresh 35. 3, didn't like the 3, he'll shoot 2 as he draws contact against Dawson. Second personal on Brandon Dawson.
And you just see a high ball screen, and Gary Harris too late rotating as Adrian Payne has to help on the point guard. Very good spacing from Delaware.
Delaware 25-9. Had a big win in late November at Villanova, 84-80. Kind of put them on people's radar around the country. And they have been really the antithesis of Michigan State in this way. They have been injury-free. No major injuries. You knock on wood if you're Monty Ross. The big 3 scorers, starters accounting for 68% of their points. And a Fighting Blue Hens showing some fight. Staying true to their nickname, cutting an 18-point deficit down to 7.
And that 1-3-1 kind of 3-quarter court trap wasn't to steal the basketball. It's to take Michigan State out of their early offense, which is the strength of what they do.
Well, they left Kaminsky for the 3. He can't hit. And Michigan State's offense has hit a wall here. Adrian Payne fouled on the catch. Spartans have gone nearly 4 minutes without a point. Doug, has Delaware changed anything defensively, or was Payne's substitution?
Part of it was Payne's substitution. Part of it is the made 3-point shots kind of cover up that this game wasn't as big a blowout as it was getting ready to be. They could make a bunch of shots. They weren't that much better than Delaware, but they started running a fever. One, you take the guy who's killing Delaware out because he needs a quick break. And then secondly, you take a couple bad shots and Delaware gets it going.
Coming up on AT&T at the half, we'll get you caught up on all the latest tournament news, highlights, and updates around the country, all coming up on AT&T at the half in just a couple of minutes. This is game 2 of our quadruple header from Spokane. Early game saw Harvard as the 12th seed knock off Mick Cronin's Cincinnati Bearcats, so the Crimson await the winner of this one in a round of 32 matchup here on Saturday. And Tom Izzo said earlier this week, no one on this side of the bracket wants to take on Harvard. As now Delaware is starting to get the shots that they want, drawing some fouls and getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, Von Sadler, of course, now the all-time leading scorer at Delaware. He passed Mike Pegues. Pegues played for Mike Bray, tremendous low post scorer.
Now an assistant coach at Xavier.
Yeah, was an assistant here, and he's been texting the coaches all year. Other guys need to get involved. Other guys need to get involved. Nobody wants to see their record go down. But Sadler, the perfect get for Delaware, a little bit lightly recruited. They were on him early, and he's just found the perfect marriage for a system like the one that Monte Ross runs.
Sadler, a senior, Aberdeen, Maryland native. The star of this Delaware team that was picked to finish 4th in the preseason poll in the CAA. How about Adrian Payne? What a first half. 4 for 4 from downtown. He's got 23 points. Michigan State's lead back to double digits. Again, Threet doesn't want to shoot that three. Tries to get in tighter. Pass off the hands of Maurice Jeffries, a freshman into the game. 14 to shoot.
How about the show that Adrian Payne's putting on? I mean, he scored in the low post, he scored at the free throw line, and he's 4 for 4 from 3. It's like a highlight film. You don't need to edit anything.
Have you ever seen a player add that element to his game after 3 years into his career? I mean, he's just a different shooter from the outside. Didn't even attempt him his first 3 years. Sadler hits it. Alvin Ellis was draped all over him. The freshman didn't matter. Well, Payne thought about it.
That's pretty unselfish. I gotta tell you, if I hit 4, that 5th one's going up next time it touches my hands.
Appling will slow it down, 20 to shoot. We come up on the final minute before halftime. Five to shoot. Trice unable to turn the corner. Appling. Rebound cleared. Here comes Usher. Well played defensively, and that's a traveling violation.
You asked, had I ever seen players? Yes, I've seen. This is, I think there is a narrative at the next level. Guys like Kobe Bryant, you don't learn anything from college basketball. It's just not true. Especially with the facilities you now have in college, coaches, not just like Tom Izzo, Dane Fife, obviously, a guy who was a former head coach at IPFW, part of this magnificent staff they have in East Lansing. You have quality coaches who will work with you, and you can work on your own game with the managers. Getting shots up, it's all a question of how hard you want to work. Man, if that guy's not a gym rat, I don't know who is. You don't simply magically become that good a shooter overnight.
Disagreeing with Kobe.
Yeah, I disagree greatly. I mean, who would know how much you learn in college if you didn't go to college? He's one of the all-time greats, but speak about things you know.
Well, Adrian Payne showing just how far he's come. 14 straight points for the Spartans. Who else for Michigan State can step up and give him something offensively?
Well, they haven't had to. They did get Dawson a look around the basket. He missed it. Keith Appling, who's now out, still a little bit tentative with that wrist. And one guy's dominating the game. You play off him, and you let Delaware overhelp.
Well, Harris, the only other Spartan in double figures with 10. Their lead at 9 with 36 seconds left. Delaware, the heavy underdog, to say the least. Trying to keep it close. 3. Now to Sadler. Challenged by Payne, and Harris got him from the back.
But it was Payne just standing, holding his ground, not fouling, not taking a charge.
Looked like a timeout was taken. It was my mistake. It was actually Ellis who came over for the help defense block. 13.2 to play. Izzo will draw it up. Michigan State by 9. Oh, Coke Zero wants to know, are you a real fan? Hashtag prove it. Visit the Coke Zero Social Arena in March Madness Live. Back with you in Spokane, Spiro Ditas, Doug Gottlieb, our entire TNT crew. Jamie Maggio with us as well. Fourth-seeded Michigan State Spartans, final shot before halftime. Trice turns the corner, going glass. Excellent play by Trice. Nearly stole the inbounds. Able to take it back.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
But stepped out of bounds.
Everybody's paying attention to Adrian Payne. He's gonna screen and then pop out. So you're like, oh, do I help? Do I not help? And Travis Trice says, right down Broadway, high off the glass.
1.8 to play. Usher. Baseball pass up the floor, stolen by Kaminsky, and that will take us to halftime here in Spokane. Michigan State riding an electric first half performance from Adrian Payne. 23 points to lead by 11. We'll send you to AT&T at the half after these messages. You're watching the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship.
Free throws, he showed his defense. That's about as good a first half as I've seen a college basketball player play at both ends of the floor.
Pitching a perfect game from deep, 23 points. Payne's career high, 33 a game at Texas on December the 21st of this season.
That was on CBS. Greg Anthony was there. He was effusive in his praise, as we were, of his development as an all-around player.
This is a Delaware team, 25-9. Usher trying to hit a tough turnaround to start the half. Fighting Blue Hens, the regular season and conference tournament champs out of the Colonial Athletic Association. They have never beaten a team from the Big Ten in the NCAA tournament for the first time in 15 years. That is Devon Sadler to the rack.
Well, Payne with the three, and then bad transition defense, and Sadler. Payne let him go, and Keith Appling reached in.
Once he gets that shoulder into you, there's really not much you can do.
Dead.
Not the tallest guy on the floor. Well, he has that girth.
Right. Well, when you have that type of strength, it's one thing to be strong and to look good when you're posing in the mirror in the weight room. It's another thing to use it when you're on the floor. He uses that strength.
I mean, you had some pretty good pipes at OSU, but this kid is just
a gun show a couple times. No
different
question.
level.
Yeah. Oh, he can put the ball in the basket, something I could not do.
Little hiccup on the handoff between Payne and Harris. Just over a minute gone by, 5 to shoot. Payne, appeared to be some contact, no whistle. And a loose ball fielded by 3. And then 3 fouled on the perimeter. It's on Valentine. And that's his third personal.
Well, Tom Izzo couldn't cool him off when he had a fever going a little bit earlier in the first half. He needed a quick break. But halftime suddenly has cooled off Adrian Payne. Didn't miss by much. Both shots were straight, missed long. But you got a fever going like Adrian Payne had in the first half. You want to just not go into the locker room.
Well, Michigan State, as quickly as everyone had jumped off their bandwagon through all the injuries, they have quickly come back on. A sexy pick again to go all the way to northern Texas.
My big question
and win it all.
Is Keith Appling, how healthy is he? He hasn't looked to take over offensively because he hasn't had to, but he has a ton of offensive talent as a scorer.
Every time you think Delaware is going away, Doug, they just keep coming, a little bit of a push. There's Appling trying to get his group together. Non-shooting foul. Delaware will inbound down 8.
Well, Appling hit 2 jump shots where Michigan State was kind of daring him to shoot, playing off of him.
Usher buries the 3. And here comes Delaware again, down by as many as 18, within 5.
They're playing with house money. This is a tough team that won their league championship, won their conference tournament championship against William & Mary in a very, very physical game.
Yeah, Delaware was down by 6 points with 1:20 left in that game. Got in by the skin of their teeth, and now they are here within 5 against the rugged Spartans from Michigan State.
That's not a bad closeout from Brendan Dawson, but Davon Usher, who is not afraid to jump up and knock down big shots. He had a big and one in the first half when they were falling out of the game.
Here's Trice. The junior back in the game quickly. Spartans still looking for their first points of the half. Payne, contact from the back. It's on 3. Adrian Payne, 23 points. Gary Harris, the only other Spartan double figures with 10.
And Harris, though, has been pretty quiet. When he had it going, he scored 7 straight points in the first half. But Delaware's done a very good job of what's called getting up underneath him, staying close to him, not letting him get any touches, as Michigan State really likes either handoffs or simple down screens to get him the ball and get him space. He hasn't gotten any space. It's kind of been all Payne all the time for Michigan State on offense.
How about this? Payne in the NCAA tournament has never missed a free throw.
Well, that's the all-time announcer jinx, right? You just know what's happening.
I'm confident. Perfect. It's been that kind of day for Adrian Payne. Dayton, Ohio native, 25 points to make it a 7-point difference.
Really good defensive movement from Adrian Payne, who has to show defensively and get back to his own man.
Not a lot of space for Usher. Tough shot from the corner. Quick outlet. Payne ahead to Trice. Gets the layup. Looks like Trice is holding his lower back, as if this team needed any more injuries to deal with. They have wrenched his back at the end of that layup.
Well, by design, this is what it's supposed to look like. Challenge shot by Brandon Dawson. No foul. Rebound from Adrian Payne. Quick, deep outlet. And then a lay-in from Trice, who may have hit his back on one of the cameras.
It's always so dangerous. Just not a lot of room. These guys going full head of steam. Trice just trying to battle his way through it.
Yeah, honestly, a bruise in the back is not as bad as a tweak of the back. You know, that's going to hurt tomorrow. There might be a little welt there. If he did bop into a camera, hopefully he's fine. But like a bruise is not, if you wrench your back, that's the kind of thing that just doesn't go away, and it's really difficult to play basketball with.
And Trice, no stranger to injuries, had that mysterious illness the summer of 2012. Doctors feared it was life-threatening at a certain time. Turned out to be a brain infection that finally cleared up after a couple of months. Very, very scary situation for Trice. Shot clock in single digits. Dawson, beautiful finish on the reverse. Dawson's been quiet today, only 4 points. Very tough attempt by 3. Appling all the way inside for the deuce. Appling, the senior, with his first points.
And you mentioned Dawson, but the previous bucket, frankly, was set up by Schilling rolling and Appling faking the pass and setting up Dawson, and then Appling took that last one himself.
Sadler inside, and how did King Davis finish that play?
It was the King. Only the King could make that shot.
That shot here appeared to hit the very top of the glass. 9-point game. Delaware, if you've just joined us, down by as many as 18. They were down 11 at halftime. Trying to stay close. And Trice inexplicably just coughed it up. 11 Michigan State turnovers, and that matches their season average.
Well, Michigan State wants to get out and run. Gary Harris finding his backcourt mate. When Keith Appling sees a lane, like Moses down the Red Sea, lay in. Michigan State up 9 points at the same time that Delaware had 18 points in the first half.
Payne is 4 of 5 from deep. His career mark 33 points, as we told you earlier, in a December win at Texas. Sadler has his pocket picked by Appling.
Great play by Appling. Good hands, stayed in bounds. I guess it wasn't double dribble because his first dribble was to control it, but he did pick it up.
Now, Trice hurt his lower back just a couple of minutes ago. Never left the game, still in. We're in Spokane. Spiro Ditas, dugout lead. The winner of this game advances to take on Harvard Saturday in a round of 32 matchup. Harvard a 4-point winner earlier today over Cincinnati. Not a huge surprise, certainly with the seeding numbers it is, but a lot of people around the country had Harvard winning that game.
Well, but Harvard was very, very impressive with their ability to navigate Cincinnati's stingy defense. They got to make more free throws. Missed 14 free throws today. But a competitive team, and one now that's experiencing a second game in the NCAA tournament for the second consecutive year.
Usher pounded by Harris and a whistle blown.
I'll tell you what
This
I like
kid
about
is so good defensively.
That's what you really like. You know, so many other guys who are of his stature. You know, a player who most people talk about as potentially a first-round draft pick whenever he chooses to put his name in. Just they only play when they get the basketball. But that's not what makes Gary Harris special. Is one, offensively, he'll play without the basketball. Two, he'll set others up. And maybe most importantly, he plays both ends of the floor.
Big free throws for Delaware. Usher can't connect. Two ties, 4 lead changes. Spartans have led by as many as 18, and Delaware is going to get it back.
I think they missed it. Gary Harris is saying it hit off somebody else's foot as he went to the baseline and the ball kind of rolled out of bounds.
And now they'll change the call and give it to the Spartans.
Monte Ross is not happy with it, but let's see if they got it right, most importantly. Yeah, it hit off of Sadler's foot, and that's why it bounced out of bounds. Sadler's right foot, right there.
Doug, I don't know. I think that may have hit Harris's heel on the play.
I think it hit Sadler's right toe, and if you look, Sadler's not protesting.
So Michigan State gets the call with exactly 14 minutes left.
Ooh, that was a screen.
Barnett Harris, freshman big man, has come in for Delaware, and a chance at a 3-point play for Trice.
Now, Trice uses that jump shot as a weapon, as he's their best 3-point shooter. Pump fakes, drives in, draws just a brush of contact. I guess. Not really sure there was contact, but it's still a very good drive and finish.
Trice, the son of a coach, played for his dad in high school. His father, Travis, played 2 years collegiately, each at Purdue and Butler. Told you about that mysterious illness he had. He also had a very nasty double blister on the bottom of his foot.
Just the description of it. The interior blister, there's 2 blisters. The interior blister was infected. He thought he couldn't play. They cut both blisters open, and then he was fine.
Now, what they say, the pus was
come on.
just shot out.
No. There are people who are eating nachos and other things that aren't good for them at home,
I'm
Spiro.
just trying to give America the story.
America does not want that part of the story. He had a double blister. They cut it open. He's fine. End of story.
Let's move on. 12-point lead for Michigan State. 13-15 remaining. Appling trying to turn the corner. And the foul charge to Harris. Oh, if you missed getting your brackets in, it's not too late. Join the Capital One NCAA March Madness round-by-round game right now. Visit ncaa.com/round-by-round.
You had Cincinnati go into the Final Four, or Ohio State making another run. They're still alive in the round-by-round.
Just trying to give everyone a chance.
Yeah.
Here's Kaminsky. Can't hit the turnaround hook, and the rebound corralled by Sadler. Usher.
Boom.
And it's back to single digits.
Every time it feels like Delaware's fallen out of it, Davon Usher steps up and hits a big shot. He will not let them go away.
Again, we told you had that 42-point game in early February against Charleston. Followed it up with 34 as Trice has the answer from deep. 14 points for the junior. And then Sadler fouled on the rebound play.
Now, Devin and Davon have known each other since they were 10 years old. Sadler a little between the legs. And Usher, splash.
Delaware in the bonus. So Devon Sadler, a 71% free throw shooter. Delaware's all-time leading scorer, will shoot 1 and 1.
Watch his release on the basketball. He shoots it kind of out in front of him, and I thought, well, it's because he made himself so muscular. He's always been big, being built going back to his high school days. Sadler has kind of a unique release out in front of his face. But when you see it in person, it's even more profound because there's almost like a foot of space between where the ball is and his nose. Usually the best shooters shoot kind of just off your right eye.
See some strange releases from some very prolific scorers, even at the NBA level.
It's all about shooting the same way every time, more so than shooting it perfectly every time.
Adrian Payne wants to go right at Batiste. He has gashed Delaware's defense. 27 points for the senior center.
But it's that he takes his time to make that move.
And then 3 forcing the issue. He'll shoot 2 when we come back.
Well, first he hits you from 3, and then he hits you from the low post. Adrian Payne. Been painful for the Blue Hens.
Here today.
Oh, the second round matchup, Talib Zana and Patrick Young. Those are some strong men down low that will be doing some work.
It'll be like a steel cage match between those two. How about Pittsburgh just crushing Colorado in that game?
Yeah, they did to Colorado what Wichita State did to them last year. And just tip to finish, better team. And I do think Pittsburgh a bit underrated because of their weak non-conference schedule. They weren't able until late in the season to get real quality wins, especially on the road. First, they lost to Syracuse on that deep shot from Tyler Ennis.
Brandon Dawson on a layup. Delaware just couldn't get matched up in the transition defense.
And if you want to beat Florida, you got to match their physicality. There are not many teams that can do it like Pittsburgh can.
Here comes Threet trying to turn the corner. Well, Michigan State showing off some of their passing prowess.
Well, they see the trap and they have perfect spacing, little ping passing. You know, Ellis is a perfect example of a guy who might not have gotten the minutes he got in Big Ten play if not for their injuries. And while it's hurt their seed and hurt their overall record, it's really helped their depth heading into the NCAA tournament that if Adrian Payne plays poorly or if Travis Trice can't go, he hit his back on what looked like a camera. Between Ellis Costello and some of their other bench players, they've played minutes on the road in the Big Ten, and they won't be hesitant in a situation like the NCAA tournament.
Well, Izzo, when he's got a team fully healthy, just so many options. This is Trice. Well, he's hit some big shots today, hasn't he?
I think his back's okay.
I think you're right. 16 points for the junior from Ohio.
Well, that's the other thing that Appling does. And Appling is really playing like a true point guard. He's not looking for his offense, but it frees up Trice to not have to think, run the team, and be the trigger man.
Tough shot by Usher in traffic. Izzo told us this week, he asked his team, gathered him in a practice earlier this season and said, who's our go-to guy? And he said he got 5 different answers. 15 different starting lineups, all the injuries that they've had to contend with. But here they are now, right at full strength again. Dawson fouled. And it really was Dawson's injury that was the turning point for them. He went down with that broken hand. Of course, that freak injury, slammed his hand on a table during an impromptu team meeting where some of his teammates kind of gathered him to tell him that they needed a little bit more consistent energy from him. They were 17-1 when Dawson went out. They were 3rd in the AP poll. And very clearly and quickly, they found out that Dawson really is the heart and soul of this team.
No, and what he has to do in order for them to win a national championship is play every game like it's his last. And that was really kind of the message that was received. They played a tape of Dan Dockich, the former Indiana head coach, commenting on a game, saying the exact same thing, that he has to bring better energy.
Baptiste thought he was fouled. Appling barely kept his foot, avoids the travel, and Trice sticks the triple.
As good as Adrian Payne was in the first half, Travis Trice is having that kind of second half.
It is Trice's moment in the second half. 19 points, biggest lead for the Spartans.
And Trice hitting a jump shot, throwing a flex on.
One of Tom Izzo's closest friends. Those two go back a long time. Graduate students at Northern Michigan. Roomed together, and they actually lived in a trailer park together for 3 years. They bought a trailer, kind of redesigned it on the inside. And Tom says all they used to do is just kind of sit around and diagram plays, whether it was hoops, whether it was football. And they have remained very, very tight to this day.
And of course, he's sitting with Tom Izzo's wife, Lupe, and son, Steven. Lifelong friends that have gone on to successful careers in their respective fields.
Apparently, Izzo was pretty good with the tools growing up. Worked for his dad at the age of 12 and his grandfather. And as Kyle Anderson finally able to get one going to the rim. First 2 points for him. And a whistle on the interior on the other end of the floor.
It's interesting on the perception of Michigan State basketball at times has been one in which they want to play in the half court. The reality is this is how they want to play. And oftentimes when you play in Big Ten play, everyone knows, because he's been there for, over 20 years, obviously first an assistant to Judd Heathcote, and now as a head coach. Everyone knows they want to get out, push the ball in transition and on makes. In the Big Ten, the first thing you do when you're playing a Tom Izzo team is get all the way back and then build your defense out.
Well, everything he has touched has pretty much turned to gold. 17th consecutive appearance in the Big Dance. 2000 national title. Won it in Indianapolis, a city that has been so kind to Izzo over the years. 7 conference titles in the Big Ten. And National AP Coach of the Year back in '98. Costello with a chance at a three-point play.
It's some of the little things that Keith Appling is doing that you have to pay attention to. He just kind of moves Brendan Dawson out of the way so that the defense shifts and pays attention to Dawson, and then he fires the ball into Costello. The game just slows down when you've been a starting point guard and you're a junior and now a senior. He's not as thirsty in hunting shots. Some of that because of the wrist injury, but some of that is just he's at peace with who he is.
And that's what Tom Izzo said this week. He says that he's really kind of eased up his demeanor off the floor with his teammates, even with media. He's kind of let his hair down a little bit, and it has manifested itself in the success that he's had on the floor. Appling admitted, he said, look, my first 2 years, I never listened to Tom. Did this year, and he's had his best year as a Spartan.
And now he tells the younger players, I used to fight with Coach, fight him the first couple of years. Now I listen to him, and I'm a much better player. Davon Usher keeps coming.
Top of your picture, that is the schedule of games coming up. As a busy first full day of the NCAA tournament continues around the country. There's the 4-13 matchup, East Regional. Winner of this game advances to take on Harvard here in Spokane Saturday afternoon. 17-point lead. Here comes Appling. Spartans in no hurry. Appling. Dawson couldn't tip it in. Offensive rebound, Costello. Harris. Costello won't get a better opportunity than that. So here comes Delaware, down 17 points. Ooh, 3. Nearly clotheslined around the neck. Monte Ross asking for a flagrant. You make the call. Threet will shoot when we come back. Of the two flagrants.
This feels like it's just a tired play for Matt Costello. He's late getting there instead of just reaching in. He's so much bigger than Threet, and Threet was so low. I don't think there was intent, but they're not trying to judge intent. Trying to judge whether or not it's a flagrant foul.
So 2 shots and possession for Delaware.
Excessive contact, holding a player from behind to prevent the score. I guess that's probably what it is. I didn't think the intentional foul call on, intentional flagrant one on Aaron Craft was a flagrant one because I thought he got faked out, and that's why he ended up, grabbing the Dayton offensive player. That one appeared to be one that which you had to call, again, because his arm was around Threet's neck, even if Threet was so low that anytime you stick out your arm, it would have been around his neck.
Aaron Craft's college career ending today. Ohio State upset by the 11-seeded Dayton Flyers.
We saw Sean Kilpatrick's career end earlier today, beaten by Harvard. Harvard, of course, gets the winner of this game.
Well, Anderson fouled, so he will shoot. Doug, it's only a 15-point game, 7 minutes left. Foul charge to Harris, his 4th, so he will sit.
Anderson has one of the purest strokes in the CAA. One dribble up and splash fits a perfect role in this 4-guard offense.
Well, it hasn't been his day so far. 1 for 10, and he's 0 for 6 from deep. He was a much better shooter at home than he was in road or neutral games this year. And that has held true so far in this one. 13-point Delaware deficit with under 7 minutes left. Ellis into the game for Harris. And a whistle blown against Delaware.
Baptiste doesn't think there's a foul, but he's just kind of hanging and laying on Payne. And he's right if he says, well, in the first half you didn't call that a foul. But Payne was trying to establish position, and that ends up being his 4th personal foul.
Michigan State in the bonus, 1-1 for Payne. A 75% free throw shooter. Told you earlier, has never missed a free throw in the NCAA tournament.
Are you going to keep
still
saying
perfect? 22 and 22. I want to test the jinx.
You want to out-jinx the jinx?
It's been one of the great mysteries, but the way he's shooting today.
Well, he's also going after Greg Kelser's Michigan State record.
34 points. Most points by a Spartan in the tournament.
And of course, they're wearing the throwback uniforms from when Greg Kelser teamed with Magic Johnson. They won the national championship.
Reaching foul charge to Appling. So 15-point Michigan State lead. Double bonus for Delaware.
The old school,
2 shots for 3.
The old school Script State. Those are classic.
Beautiful look for the Spartans, who as always have traveled well to the tournament. Well, here are the players that Payne is chasing, currently sitting at 29 points. Payne's career high 33. Getting a little bit closer to one of our colleagues, Steve Smith.
Smitty, Jay Vincent, Greg Kelser, that is very, very high, a high caliber of college basketball player. And of course, Smitty, a great pro as well.
Trap Valentine. Spartans get it over. Payne with a beautiful acrobatic finish. He can be so graceful for a guy his size. Ball stolen back by Harris.
Harris didn't even look at the basket.
It's a great point. He was right there, had the layup.
Well, perfect advance pass from Appling, and Dawson throws it a little behind Adrian Payne, so instead of trying to dunk something he can't dunk, puts in the magic square, and in the bucket it goes. You know, the other impressive part so far with Michigan State, and everyone's going to talk about injuries. And you're right, they had injuries And that obviously led to some dysfunction and some clunkiness offensively and defensively. But let's also be honest, in which the growing feeling around the program was, our guys 2 feet in to win, or are guys worried about how they're being viewed at that next level? A guy like Adrian Payne, who turned down likely of being a first-round draft pick. A guy like Gary Harris, competing for the same thing. And it feels like whatever happened at the Big Ten tournament, there was clearly a decision made to where they're playing free of ego. Open man gets the ball, work to get the ball to Harris, work to get the ball to Payne, make the extra pass, and play team defense.
There's the Michigan State team, 26-8 during the regular season. 29th NCAA appearance, 17th straight. Only Kansas and Duke with longer active streaks. Started the year as the #1 in the AP poll. Started 17-1 before the injuries hit. And trying to get to the round of 32 for a date with Harvard. Keith Applin going coast to coast for his 4th point. A 19-point lead for the Spartans with under 6 minutes left. Sadler left it short. Baptiste couldn't clean it up. Well, Baptiste just did not have the kind of impact that Monte Ross was hoping for. 24 points, his career high in that CAA tournament championship against William and Mary. Today, just 6.
Well, it's a different level. Now, when Michigan State walked in for practice yesterday, it looked like a different level.
Usher fouled on the drive, and will shoot 2 with exactly 5 minutes left.
Baptiste is a kid who 2 years at St. Joseph's, and he played a lot as a freshman, buried behind some pretty good players for Phil Martelli. Transferred, sat out. They had good players last year at Delaware. He's got an opportunity, and the coaching staff believes he's just now figuring out how good he can be. Look, he's guarding one of the best big men in America who played one of the best games of his life. There's no shame in that.
Well, Monte Ross, of course, 10 years as an assistant under Phil Martelli at St. Joe's, so that connection was built in. There is Phil Martelli Jr. on the coaching staff here alongside Ross.
You know, he's behind Jamil Higgins last year, who's a very good big guy, all-time leading shot blocker and rebounder at Delaware. So now in his 5th year, senior year, he got an opportunity, and they would not have beaten William and Mary if not for him having a career game. He was okay today, but you're playing against a tremendous player playing at his peak level.
Phil Martelli and St. Joe's, of course, out in Buffalo for the tournament.
Ooh, could we see the Holy War too? Nova against St. Joe's if St. Joe's can beat UConn.
Potential 3rd round matchup. Jump ball and possession arrow favors the Spartans. Phil Martelli Jr.'s son Philip becoming a YouTube sensation during the A-10 tournament. Dancing in the stands after St. Joe's won the final in Brooklyn, and here he is.
He's got all the mannerisms down of his grandpa. His grandpa is his hero. So watch, he stands exactly like him. He studies him.
You just can't get enough of it. And Philip is actually in Buffalo with his grandfather.
I mean, if you're running, you know, you never miss with a winning streak, right?
Charm, right? Sadler filling it up from deep. 14-point game with 4:26 left. 19 for Sadler, their all-time leading scorer. Well, the Fightin' Blue Hens has Delaware in the tournament for the first time since 1999.
Oh, had Dawson on the lob.
Here comes Valentine setting the table for Payne for the hard finish. New career high for Adrian Payne and a Michigan State tournament record with 35 points.
Denzel Valentine hasn't really gotten anything going offensively, but the defense determined that Payne gets the ball. And if you're going to set a career high and a Michigan State tournament school record, What better way to do it than on a dunk? Maybe another deep three? I don't know. Got a new haircut, got a freshie. He's got some new kicks. He's got a new career high.
Oh, it's been his day. 4 or 5 from deep. 8 rebounds for good measure.
Senior is not a bad word. The things that college coaches
and that's
tell
why
players.
You have to feel good for a kid who made the decision to come back. And so many of these kids end up leaving. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Correct.
Did it for the right reasons, and it's paid off. Payne looking for more. Contact from Harris, the freshman. Payne looking for more at the line when we come back. How about Michigan State? Some tournament history in Spokane. This was 2010 against Maryland. Second round, Gravis Vasquez hit the shot, put Maryland up 1. But then the ensuing possession, Corey Lucius with the game-winning 3.
Remember, that was after Kalen Lucas tore his Achilles tendon.
That's
It was
right.
the Big Ten Player of the Year. And, of course, Judd Heathcote, who started his coaching career at West Valley High School in Spokane before eventually going to Montana, and then the legendary head coach, Magic Johnson, at Michigan State.
And now lives here in Spokane, making the short drive.
So this is a
to watch the
home
Spartans.
away from home for the Spartans. And remember, there hasn't been a senior class to play for Tom Izzo that hasn't gone to the Final Four. And the last senior class that went to the Final Four just happened to go through Spokane in their, I guess we call it second and third round, even though it's first and second. You're right, got it.
Still getting used to that deal. 17-point lead for the Spartans. Sadler just finds ways to score.
He competes, man. Competes.
21 points, 7 for 15 shooting.
You don't score over 2,000 points at a level like the CAA, which of course has produced the likes of George Mason and VCU, unless you find creative ways to get buckets both off the catch and the bounce.
Again, as we told you earlier, only 2 active players scored more career points than that kid, Devon Sadler. Dougie McBuckets, Doug McDermott, and Travis Bader.
The only guy who has struggled here this afternoon for Michigan State is Denzel Valentine. He got pulled for a quick shot in the first half and kind of in and out of the lineup. And even there, kind of a lazy pass. It's the type of thing that when you turn on the film tomorrow, and one of the good things about the NCAA tournament is when you get a win, you start prepping for your next game. They'll start prepping, so they may not watch the film. But Denzel's the one guy who's yet to click this afternoon.
A reminder, get complete coverage of the NCAA Division I Women's Tournament at ncaa.com.
It's just one of those, you want everybody to get a touch, everybody to hit a bucket, everybody to feel good. Valentine's the one guy, he's having a little discussion with Tom Izzo right now, trying to shake this. Of course, his dad played at Michigan State, brother now at Michigan State.
Again, you can't overstate just how much Izzo had to rely on Valentine for portions of the season, all the injuries. Here comes Delaware.
That's 2 finishes that Dawson has missed at the rim.
Anderson fouled on a 3-point shot. And that will be the 5th on Harris.
Boy,
and
Harris,
the absolute last thing that Tom Izzo wanted here. 3 free throws.
You get him with the Reggie Miller? Yep. Kick out the foot, fall down. Somewhere Reggie be proud. Bumped him a little bit. Got to protect the shooter, and Harris knew he did it.
Well, if Anderson can hit 3 here, it's a 10-point game with 2:35 left.
Yeah,
and stranger things have happened.
Look, our last game didn't feel as competitive as the final score indicated. This game doesn't feel competitive, and the final score is close to getting within single digits, and this being a ball game without Gary Harris, arguably their best player for Michigan State.
Kyle Anderson, a junior, Newark, Illinois native. Delaware's best 3-point shooter, 3rd in the conference with 85 made threes during the regular season.
And now they're just going to trap all over.
Oh, the Delaware contingent that made the cross-country trek, trying to rally their troops. 7 straight points for the Fighting Blue Hens. Payne
Wow.
Baptiste forced him into a tough shot. Everything going for Payne. He's got 37. Make it 39 points. And an offensive foul will give it back to the Spartans.
He has done it all. I mean, even there where he kind of drew the flop, drew the charge. Payne with a beautiful bucket, and then he comes down, sets up position. Oh, he got a little elbow to the chin.
Baptiste has fouled out.
Now, I think that's a basketball play. Remember, this part of the change in determining whether it's a flagrant one or just a common foul is it a basketball play? Baptiste is not throwing an elbow as much as making the goalpost to get himself ready to catch the basketball.
So you don't like the rule?
No. This year it's not an automatic flagrant one. Last year it would have been an automatic flagrant one. I don't believe it should be a flagrant one.
Well, whatever they decide here, Baptiste, and it is a flagrant one, we're told.
Sometimes in basketball you catch an elbow. In a basketball play, Baptiste was frankly probably being fouled by Payne, who was laying on him and trying to establish position, and happened to catch him with an elbow. I would have just called a common foul, Michigan State ball.
Well, could be the end of the college career of Carl Baptiste, the Pittstown, New Jersey native. Fouling out here, the St. Joseph's transfer. 6 points. This wasn't much he can do against Adrian Payne, who has hit the 40-point plateau. Most prolific scoring game of Payne's 4-year career. You see the 16 of 16. And now a new tournament record, 17 of 17 at the stripe.
Wow. The points and the free throws are going to impress you, but when you watch the game in its entirety, it's more impressive because he scored with his left hand in the post, his right hand. The last one was a fadeaway.
He hit
threes. He had defensive stops, a block shot.
8 boards. This will go on his highlight reel.
Feeding him till he burps.
That one does not count. Traveling violation. Well, the fight for Earth doesn't end until one of us is gone. An all-new season of Falling Skies premieres Sunday, June 22nd, 10/9 Central on TNT. Michigan State trying to put the finishing touches on this one. Tommy Amaker and Harvard awaiting. In a round of 32 matchup on Saturday. How about that shot?
He called glass?
Davon Usher. And he's got 20.
Well, Usher and Sadler have been as good as advertised. They brought it. Kyle Anderson struggled with the jump shot. And they haven't gotten what they needed out of Baptiste in order to compete. But those two lifelong friends who finally got together and played in college this year, whew, good ball.
21 for Sadler, 20 for Usher. Monte Ross will empty his bench. Dawson left open for the easy flush. Ross wants to get a timeout.
He wants to get his guys in. And I think Tom Izzo wants to wait so he gets a special sub for Adrian Payne.
Well, what an end. Devon Sadler, Delaware's all-time leading scorer. With an emotional finish. His career will end here in Spokane, Washington. What a career for that young man, and what a day for Adrian Payne. Career day, 41 points. Tournament record, 17 of 17 at the line. That's Sean Locke, sophomore from Newark, Delaware, into the game.
That's a good day. That's a heck of a day. 17 for 17 from the line, 40 points.
Won't see too many of those stat lines in college basketball. So here are what the brackets will look like. It'll be Michigan State, Harvard here in a 4-12 matchup on Saturday afternoon.
Harvard's a worthy competitor, but boy, They got some issues to deal with the talent of Michigan State, and some of their star players starting to click. Like Gary Harris early and Adrian Payne throughout the entire game, and Travis Trice went on kind of a one-man run.
Final 30 seconds. This is Dan Chapman.
I get a shot up.
Wetzel. Well, Tom Izzo loves these backups. His group of scout players, walk-ons. He's affectionately talked about those guys. He calls them his Iron Mountain guys. And Izzo is one of them. During his college days as a player, former walk-on at his alma mater, Northern Michigan. And they've had a busy couple of weeks getting them ready. 3 wins in 3 nights in the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis. Very little sleep for those guys. Tasked with coming up with the opposing team's offense for practices.
Kobe Woolman getting 2 free throws from Wyoming, not far from where he grew up.
Locke is trying to walk a tightrope on the baseline. Draws contact with 14.1 remaining. Foul charge to Russell Burr, the redshirt junior. And Locke will shoot 2.
And now Michigan State has a chance to feel good about themselves and get ready for Harvard, a Harvard team that is very, very confident in their ability to pull off yet another upset.
How much of a chance do you give the Crimson?
I think it's a bad matchup for them. I really do. But we've seen Laurent Rivard get loose as he did in the first half. We've seen Siani Chambers hit jump shots. And athletically, they're talented enough to compete.
Adrian Payne playing the game of his life. 41 points. Michigan State moving on to take on Harvard. The tournament continues now on TBS. St. Joe's in Connecticut. And TNT has NC State and St. Louis. Right now, Capital One Tournament Central after these messages on TNT.